So Warbreaker Hulk is still trying to kill T'Challa, but the King of Wakanda Prime, he's got that and some other issues to worry about. Now, this story here is coming from Imperial War Black Panther, which is one of the many one-shot tie-ins here to the bigger Imperial event. Now, I'll be very honest with you here. I'm not sure that I'm in love with this one, but there are some interesting plot points that are worth digging into. So when we open up this issue here, we see the words of the Black Panther himself when he's like, two Hulks walk into a bar. The bartender says, what's it gonna be? Oh, also, there are a bunch of scrolls in the bar. And then he's like, hold on, let me start the joke all over again. Two Hulks walk into a bar full of scrolls. The bartender says, what's it gonna be? The Hulk says, it's gonna be crowded. And it's in this moment here where we see Hulk in rage mode and he's like, don't run from me, T'Challa. While Braun is trying to calm him down. And listen, if I were T'Challa, I'll be booking it out of there too. But here's the thing, T'Challa isn't just running, he's running straight towards Skrulls. And in this next moment here, we see T'Challa as he's jumping and gliding over these Skrulls, but then he keeps narrating. And what this serves as here is basically cliff notes to what's been happening so far up until this point. And he mentions, he's like, Wakanda Prime is under attack by half a dozen galactic empires. They think Wakanda schemed to assassinate their leaders. We didn't, not our style. But try telling that to the Hulk though. He's not in a listening mood. Even Ameda's Cho can't get through to him. And he continues on, he's like, thought I could use him to get rid of some of these Skrulls, which the plan looks like it's being effective here because as T'Challa is gliding over these Skrulls, well, Hulk is running straight through the Skrulls. But then T'Challa continues on, he's like, the Skrulls also want to kill me. Now, in this moment right here, T'Challa stops and he's trying to reason with the Hulk. He's like, Dr. Banner, the more that we fight, the more time that we waste, to which Hulk is like, shut up. But now the only Hulk that's keeping us calm here is Ameda's Cho. And it's in this moment here where he starts to realize something as he's holding these two Skrulls in his arms. He's like, hold on, there's a Regalian uniform here and a Hatut Sarase uniform on these Skrulls. He's like, anyone thinks it's strange that these Skrulls aren't dressed, you know, like Skrulls? But while they're pondering that thought, we cut over to this message here from Kaya over at the Wakanda Prime Command Center. And the message that comes in says, this is Imperial Command Center Kaya, attempting contact on a secure channel. Our Stargate has been sabotaged, destroyed. Communication with Vibranium Moon has been lost. Status of leadership at all levels is unclear. Until proper channels are reestablished, this command center will serve as a base of operations planet side. But then we switch scenes here directly over to Wakanda Prime, and then we hear someone mention that the command center is interfering with a transmission and that they cannot get away. And then we pan over here to a father and son. Now the son's name here is Femi, but we didn't really get the father's name at all throughout this entire issue. But the father explains here that they're blocking the signal as a precaution, and Femi agrees that it's to prevent any sort of hacking. But that also means that right now they're both stuck there. So they both come up with a plan here. They realize that the Wakanda fortress is a better defense than their small home. So they decide to stay there during the attacks and bring food and water as a gift of thanks. Now it's clear that they have other motives, but it's not clear exactly what those motives are. So basically they're kind of laying low for now. So when we jump back out into space, we see that the Hulk is still going on full rage mode right now, and he's yelling, "You killed my son," of course, referring to T'Challa. And that's when T'Challa realizes, okay, he's like, well, at least I know why the Hulk wants to kill me now. This is about more than empires at war. This is a father's rage. And it's here where he realizes it's like, I won't be talking him out of that feeling. And despite his rage, he is a hero that I respect, which means I need to get off this ship. So Hulk continues on, he's like, and not just my child, 5 civilizations have been attacked, T'Challa. 1 empire wasn't enough for you? But then once again, Ameda's Cho trying to be the voice of reason here. He's like, Hulk, listen to me, man. I'm putting the pieces together. I think there's a bigger game here afoot. And as T'Challa here is dislodging his ship from this bigger ship, he begins to say the same thing. He's like, I agree with the metas. Something is more afoot. And he mentions how it's concerning that someone has framed Wakanda for these killings, and even more troubling that so many were quick to believe it. He's like, yo, like not one of these empires reached out through back channels trying to verify. They were quick to believe the worst, which is not entirely true. They did do some research here. They saw that there was a Wakandan bullet. It looked pretty real, so they went with that notion. But of course, T'Challa doesn't know that, right? But he continues on, he's like, they were quick to believe the worst. This says more about them than us. And he continues on, he's like, the Shi'ar Imperial Guard captured my sister Shuri, which is true. What he does not know is that now Shuri is out with Star-Lord and Nova here over in Xandar, or I should say the remains of Xandar, which is where they went to access the Xandarian world mine to find out who was actually behind this whole thing in the first place. But either way, I digress. But T'Challa continues on, he's like, I'm sure that she's already made them regret it. I must find a way to create some distance between this vessel and theirs. I only have moments before the Hulk realizes I've left that ship. This air tank should help. And since their ship has no power, I just need to give them a little push. But when we jump back to the ship here, it seems that Braun is kind of making some progress to calming the Hulk down, because he tells him, he's like, Hulk, please, like, just take a breath, my guy. And he asks him a question. He's like, why would Black Panther all of a sudden start murdering leaders across the universe? To which Hulk is like, if he isn't guilty, then why did he run? And Braun is like, my guy, like maybe because you're trying to kill him? Like, so then Hulk is like, okay, well, where is he anyway? And then when we pick back up on T'Challa, he's like, I am a king, a superhero, and the avatar of a goddess. But elements of my job can still surprise me. One thing that doesn't get said enough about my work is that sometimes it's a lot of fun. Banner and Cho are two of the smartest beings in the universe. They'll get the ship's power back on, get themselves home. And by then, I might even have some answers about what is really going on. This is when T'Challa here, he tries to radio into a secure channel, and he hears back from Kaya, the Imperial Command Center. And T'Challa asks a question, he's like, who else is there? And Kaya lets him know, no one in high command. And he also finds out here that the moon base has gone silent, that Shuri's digital signature is no longer in the star system, and that the Stargate has been destroyed. So then T'Challa, he wants to know here about the military standing, which is where Kaya responds back, referencing here the alien ships that came in to attack them in the first place, and mentions that more than half their fleets are without power. Our attack vessels outnumber them. We stand at a great advantage. But instead of attacking back here, T'Challa wants to send a message instead. And he starts out by saying this: if this message reaches you, that means you are still alive, as am I. The intergalactic empire of Wakanda has been attacked by foes we'd once consider associates. And under normal circumstances, I would be sending this message urging you to make peace with your gods, as you would soon be meeting them, which I'm like, you know, go ahead and talk your stuff, T'Challa. But then he continues on, he's like, but these are not normal circumstances. You have all been deceived, as you may now be realizing. You are outnumbered, you are outmatched. But I wish to find the true culprit rather than inflict harm on all of you. I now offer a conditional ceasefire. That condition is your surrender. You are all proud cultures. No doubt the term surrender stings. I would feel the same. But your enemy seems clear, and that enemy is not Wakandan. If each of you consent, I propose these next steps. Now, in the middle of T'Challa saying this, Ronan on his ship just cuts off the feed. And then he turns over to his secondary intelligence and asks what it thinks. And it replies, the guilt of one does not absolve another. There is a word for this. It's collusion. Which honestly, this intelligence might as well just be Ronan himself, because to come up with that, like, what? So then what Ronan does next here is that he sends out 3 Kree ships to attack the Imperial Command Center. But you know what? We'll pick up on that a little bit later on. Because as we go back here with T'Challa, he's granted safe passage aboard one of the alien origin ships here. And here he acknowledges that given the circumstances, that having the Atut Saraze around might not necessarily be the best idea, you know, considering what they think that they did. But T'Challa, though, he's got a bone to pick with Gladiator. He's like, I understand that you and a number of the Shi'ar Imperial Guard attacked Wakanda Prime. To which Gladiator's like, yeah, we engaged in battle. So T'Challa's like, and you took my sister prisoner, is that correct? He's like, yeah, we did. To which T'Challa's like, is she being held on the ship? And Gladiator is like, no, we left her in the care of the Spartax command. To which T'Challa is like, care? Is that what you call it? And then he continues on. He's like, at some point when this is over, I will repay your disrespect of my sister. Wakanda never forgets. To which Gladiator is like, okay, until then. And T'Challa is like, all right, until then. So in this next moment here, we jump over to where we see 3 Skrull prisoners. And here we see some of the intergalactic leaders here describing the situation. So one of the Chameleon leaders says, holy war, while one of the Regalian leaders says that is a reductive description of what the prisoners have stated. If we have the time, I can share the full transcript, to which T'Challa's like, nah, we don't have that type of time. But then Gladiator is like, yo, let them speak for themselves. And I believe right here, this is one of the Spartoi leaders, potentially, I don't know. But he says they'll only say the same old thing. And that is when the Skrulls start speaking. One says, GoofyRhexxi's will be done, while another one says, so it is written. And the last one says, and so it shall be. And while T'Challa calls them zealots, this other guy calls them morons. And it's here when Ronan steps on in and is like, if they wish for war, let's give them war. And I'm like, bro, you just go step up in here like you didn't just blow up Wakanda Prime's command center. It's like, what is going on? But I digress. Because one of the Regalian leaders mentions this. He's like, one wonders if the Skrulls are capable of such high level planning. Calculations suggest that they would need allies of greater intellect. And while T'Challa is agreeing, it's here where he gets a visitation here from one of the Atutsarazes. And they inform him here that Command Center Kaya has been under attack. So when they get over there, right, T'Challa's asking, are there any casualties? And he's told that there was no response from anyone within the command center, but that all Kree vessels that tried to attack, that they were all destroyed. And of course, it's here where T'Challa finds this all kind of too funny. He's like, a Kree accuser stood in a room with me while we interrogated the Skrulls and made no mention of this attack. To which one of the Atutsarazes responds and says, better to keep you occupied than have you join the fight, I'm sure. And T'Challa's just kind of adding up the tally here because he's like, the Shi'ar, the Kree, we have many enemies to repay. To which one of the Atutsarazes is like, yo, just give the word, my guy. We would gladly facilitate. To which T'Challa's like, yeah, I know you would. But as they go a little bit further, they start digging through the rubble. And as they dig, they finally get to someone. And when we see who it is, it's Femi as he calls out, father. And T'Challa pulls him out. And as T'Challa goes a little bit closer to him, that's when Femi lets him know, he's like, yo, he jumped on top of me, my father, and that's when T'Challa is like, he protected you. To which Femi then asks the question, he's like, is he dead? And he's like, yeah, I'm sorry. And as Femi lets him know, he's like, yeah, my father thought that we would be safer in the fortress. And T'Challa is like, yo, you have a right to be angry with those who made war on your doorstep. To which Femi responds, he's like, my father said that anger destroyed intelligence, and that intelligence was our greatest gift. And T'Challa, of course, says, he's like, he sounds like a good man. To which Femi's like, yeah, he was a great man. So it's in that moment here where T'Challa tells the Atutsarazes, like, take the boy over to the palace. He's under my care now. But as he says that, as he walks up here to his ship, this is when Femi says to himself, he's like, father, he doesn't realize the consequences of your death, but he will. And when T'Challa gets back on the ship, he's like, I want those accusers brought to heel. I offered them peace, but they've rejected it. And I want to know exactly where my sister is now. And when he asks the question, he's like, how goes the other work? Are the repairs underway? He gets the message back that says, yes, my king, all will be ready. He's like, all right, very good. I'll be there in moments. As the message is that the Stargate will be operational soon. And as we look at the Stargate here getting repaired, we see T'Challa's narration again as he says, look at the wonders of this world. We battle back armies on our border. Now we repair a device that helps us hop across galaxies. And yet I can't stop thinking about that child. What is this power worth if a boy and his father can't live safely in their home? A good leader is a shield for those without power. May I be a strong one for all of them. So I'll say this, I will not tell you that the story was bad by any sort of means. I'm just saying that personally, I was a little bit disappointed. I was hoping that we would get something new that would unravel the story a little bit more, but instead they kind of just gave you this like one individual story that feels kinda too centralized to itself, if you know what I mean. Like, for instance, we saw the scroll show up, right? Like, I thought that it would have been a nice little moment here if we got an actual interrogation or some twist to push the plot, the overall Imperial plot, forward. But I guess, let me know what your thoughts are here. What do you think? What did you like? What didn't you think worked here? Drop your thoughts down below in the comments. Now, as a reminder here, make sure to check out our Keepin' It Comic website. That's where you can find all of our merch here, which is one of the best ways to support the channel. Also, leave a like on this video here for the YouTube algorithm. And if you're new to the channel here, welcome. And don't forget to subscribe. And as always, guys, thank you so much for kicking it with Keepin' It Comic. Bye.